Explaining Trump 2.0, this opinion examines the emergence of a classical fascist dictatorship in the United States under Donald Trump's re-election. The American empire is committing suicide. This opening sentence serves as the thesis statement by declaring that Trump's policies are leading the United States toward self-destruction. Americans re-elected Donald Trump, knowing his fascist proclivities, to accomplish precisely this aim. Fascist proclivities is a phrase meaning tendencies toward authoritarian, nationalist rule. This sentence means that voters knowingly chose Trump to drive the country toward authoritarian collapse, notwithstanding the clownish aspects of the fascist consolidation of power, reminiscent of the classical precedents. The cruelty, vengeance, ignorance, and pettiness are real and threaten to take down the entire human species in the course of the predictable implosion from within. Clownish aspects is a critical metaphor likening certain behaviors to comedic buffoonery. Classical precedents refers to early 20th century fascist regime like Mussolini's Italy and Hitler's Germany. Implosion from within is a metaphor meaning self-destruction. This sentence means that beneath Trump's buffoonery lies a deadly authoritarian project that endangers humanity. In writing about incipient American fascism since the late 1990s, I have always been careful to note the missing elements compared to the Italian and German precedents, particularly the lack of a charismatic leader and a revolutionary militia. But no such doubts remain. Incipient is an adjective, meaning beginning to develop. Charismatic leader and revolutionary militia are jargon terms for key components of classical fascism. This sentence means that earlier Trump lacked some fascist features, but now exhibits the full package. I was cautious even 10 years ago when pointing out the limited appeal of the alt-right's ethno-nationalist fantasies, but no longer hesitate to declare this a classical fascist dictatorship in its objectives. Alt-right is a jargon term for a far-right white supremacist movement. Ethno-nationalist fantasies refers to ideas of racial or ethnic superiority. This sentence means that what once seemed fringe has now become a full-blown fascist project. Curtis Yarvin's prescription for a revived monarchy, appealing to authoritarian tech bros, is useful as shorthand, but the case of American fascism is overdetermined and suffers from a surfeit of explanations. Shorthand is an idiomatic expression meaning a brief way to refer to something complex. Overdetermined is a term meaning having multiple causes. Surfeit is a noun meaning an excessive supply. This sentence means that although Yarvin's monarchist vision captures part of the picture, many factors drive American fascism. In just 6 months, this version of Trump, empowered by reactionary oligarchs during the 2020 to 2024 interregnum, has been worse than the most die-hard pessimists expected. Reactionary oligarchs is jargon for wealthy conservative elites. Interregnum is a noun meaning an interval between regimes. This sentence means that Trump's second term has exceeded negative expectations thanks to elite backing. Trump's personal buffoonery aside, the master plan being executed to convert this nation into an authoritarian/monarchical/post-constitutional ethno-state is breathtaking for its rigor, discipline, and single-mindedness. Buffoonery is a noun meaning ridiculous behavior. Ethno-state is jargon, meaning a nation defined by a single ethnicity. This sentence means that beyond Trump's theatrics, there is a systematic authoritarian agenda. In retrospect, Democrats clearly must have been privy to these internal machinations, glimpses of which appeared in Project 2025. But because they have themselves been the main party carrying the neoliberal virus, serious opposition is precluded. Machinations is a noun meaning scheming actions. Neoliberal virus is a metaphor criticizing pro-market policies. This sentence means that Democrats knew of the coup plot, yet lacked the will to fight it because of their own policies. In basic substance, they agree with the conversion of the American citizen into a compliant consumer subject, and the convergence of pseudo-AI, not the real thing, with the radical aims of depopulation, disenfranchisement, and the projected importation of the apocalyptic warlordism of the Mad Max world the empire has already conjured, with the help of its abject proxy Israel in the Middle East. Consumer subject is a compound noun meaning citizens treated as customers. Pseudo-AI refers to overhyped, low-grade artificial intelligence technologies. Depopulation is jargon for reducing population size. Disenfranchisement is a term meaning removal of voting rights. Warlordism is jargon for lawlessness under armed rulers. This sentence means that both parties support turning citizens into passive consumers while using technology and violence to control populations. When crushing media dissenters with debilitating lawsuits and studiously ignoring federal judges' orders to stop disappearing migrants to foreign concentration camps, whether in El Salvador or South Sudan, or to reinstate essential government employees laid off by Elon Musk's Doge chainsaw wielders, the administration does so with the assurance that the Supreme Court will always provide it with just enough cover to go ahead with its plans, whether to end Medicare and Social Security or to fatally undermine birthright citizenship. Debilitating lawsuits is a phrase meaning legal actions intended to ruin critics. Disappearing migrants is an allusion to forced removals without record. Doge chainsaw wielders is a pejorative metaphor for Musk's Twitter leadership. This sentence means that the administration slaps down dissent and flouts court orders, confident the Supreme Court will shield its actions. The post-constitutionalists are explaining Trump 2.0. This opinion examines the emergence of a classical fascist dictatorship in the United States under Donald Trump's re-election. The American empire is committing suicide. This opening sentence serves as the thesis statement by declaring that Trump's policies are leading. The post-constitutionalists are also guaranteed zero real opposition from the Democrats, who have shown more gumption over taking down one of their own, and the brightest and most popular at that, New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani, while remaining silent accomplices to the deportations, the gutting of entire agencies like the FDA and the Department of Education, and the acceleration of the anti-Islamic wars in the Middle East. Post-constitutionalist is jargon for those who wish to override constitutional limits. Showed more gumption is an idiomatic expression meaning displayed more courage. This sentence means that Democrats fiercely oppose their own rising star, yet tacitly supported Trump's authoritarianism. Civil society is paralyzed and unable to summon any meaningful response to the daily annihilation of liberties. Civil society is a term referring to non-governmental groups and institutions. Paralyzed is a verb meaning rendered powerless. Annihilation of liberties is a dramatic metaphor for the destruction of rights. This sentence means that citizens and NGOs are too intimidated or disorganized to resist the erosion of freedoms. The empire is putting itself out of business by dismantling federal government agencies looking after health, education, safety, retirement, and welfare. Putting itself out of business is an idiomatic phrase meaning self-destructing. Dismantling is a verb meaning taking apart or abolishing. This sentence means that gutting social programs undermines the nation's own functioning. It is destroying the second-to-none higher education system by punishing universities for so-called DEI, by defunding them, banishing international students, and ending basic research. Second to none is an idiom meaning the best. DEI is jargon for diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. This sentence means that targeted budget cuts are crippling America's world-leading universities. It is destroying immigration by going after birthright citizenship in addition to unprecedented mass deportations resembling the former Latin American dictatorship's disappearances. Birthright citizenship is a legal principle granting citizenship to anyone born on U.S. soil. Disappearances is a loaded term referencing secret abductions by authoritarian regimes. This sentence means that ending automatic citizenship and deporting immigrants revives dark historical abuses. It is imposing a radical tariffs regime, all but overturning the global economic order that it painstakingly constructed and defended by military coercion over the last 80 years. Tariffs regime is a term for a system of import taxes. Global economic order refers to post-war trade institutions like the WTO. This sentence means that protectionist policies are destroying the international trade framework the U.S. once championed. It is militarizing a long-running subterranean civil war by putting the military on the streets without provocation and without bothering to invoke legal justification. Subterranean civil war is a metaphor for domestic political conflict. Militarizing is a verb meaning deploying armed forces domestically. Without provocation means without a valid reason. This sentence means that sending soldiers into civilian areas violates democratic norms. In short, because this is faster and more comprehensive than expected, and more disciplined and organized because of the oligarchic forces emboldening Trump and using him as an instrument to attain complete asymmetrical power, civil society is paralyzed and unable to summon any meaningful response to the daily annihilation of liberties. This sentence synthesizes the argument, attributing the rapid authoritarian shift to elite backing and citizen powerlessness. Except for a handful of the usual leftist critics who remain on the fringes, and have been so since the Bush administration's preview of the current atrocities under more legal cover, there is no appetite among Americans for a reckoning of how and why we got here, aside from a cute nostalgic wish to return to normality as it existed before, where we the people allegedly sent our obedient representatives to Washington, and monarchy ended with the 1776 revolution. Appetite is a noun meaning desire. Cute nostalgic wish is a sarcastic phrase belittling calls to simply go back to the status quo. This sentence means that most Americans prefer to forget the causes of their crisis rather than confront them. But why would an empire which, if things were managed skillfully, could have lasted a long while yet, especially given China's hesitancy to claim the mantle of world leadership, end itself? This rhetorical question underscores the puzzling self-destruction of American power. World-class universities, a global trading regime supporting dollar hegemony, and a largely undeserved high domestic standard of living, and in-migration of the best and brightest, are features of the late-stage empire to be crushed only if you desire in the end to destroy even your own MAGA supporters. Dollar hegemony is jargon for the US dollar's dominance in global finance. This sentence means that Trump's policies are ruining benefits that even his base enjoys. Trump's autarkic sensibility, which has resonated strongly with less educated Americans all throughout the Cold War, and afterwards might represent the wish to carve out three independent authoritarian zones: America, with expanded hemispheric territory, Russia, with claims on Europe, and China, much of Asia except the Middle Eastern oil states. But this seems too schematic, and American military strategy won't allow it. Autarkic sensibility is a phrase meaning preference for economic self-sufficiency. Schematic is an adjective, meaning overly simplified. This sentence means that while Trump's vision echoes imperial nostalgia, it's impractical in reality. There is the perfect symmetry of empire beginning with genocide and ending with one. Perfect symmetry is a phrase meaning exact correspondence. This sentence means that America began its expansion through violence and now ends it likewise. The psychological burden of fighting endless wars and flattening nation after nation for more than 80 years in Latin America, Africa, Asia, and more recently the Muslim world has become too much to bear. Psychological burden is a phrase meaning mental strain. Flattening nation after nation is a dramatic metaphor for military campaigns. This sentence means that decades of interventionism have worn down the American psyche. At some point, when empire's atrocities become too great, the contradictions and hypocrisies dissolve entirely as the empire implodes in a burst of honesty and citizens step back to admire their own gruesome handiwork. This sentence suggests that America's collapse will force a bleak self-recognition of its crimes. The scary thing is that Trump is merely an exclamation point, giving vent to the vapid brutality of the American soul in both its liberal and conservative incarnations, with no varnish or prettification. Exclamation point is a metaphor for a final emphatic mark. Vapid brutality is a strong oxymoron, meaning empty yet savage violence. This sentence means that Trump only makes explicit the brutality already latent in U.S. politics. The writer's political books include Why Did Trump Win? Published in Dawn, July 30th, 2025.